Before you start building, it's important to get to know the Clutch interface. Let's start by creating a new project, and here you can pick your workspace. Workspaces are like teams. They hold projects, and you can add members to your workspace, and that's how you're going to manage those roles and permissions. Here's the one that I'm in with my Clutch team, and I'm going to call this one Getting to Know Clutch. And let's pick the Clutch website template. This is our own website we give you as a template, and we'll hit Create Project. Clutch is now going to download the source code files, and it's going to compile everything and build it. It uses the same build tools that developers use under the hood. Sometimes booting projects can take a minute, but once it boots up and everything is cached, things work pretty quickly. Now we're in and our project is loaded, and I'll just walk you through the interface from the top left to the bottom right, and here we go. So the first thing you have is the Clutch menu. And here you can go back to your projects, you can join our Discord, or you can log out. Next, you have the settings panel. In here, you can manage your fonts. You can install local fonts off your computer. You'll just open this dialog here where you can upload TrueType fonts, WAFs, any kind of font files that you get if you want to use custom fonts that aren't supported by Google. Then you have libraries. And in libraries, if there are updates available, you will see these buttons here. And so let's go ahead and update these libraries. And when you get the update, it'll tell you what was updated. Then you can manage your icon libraries. If we want to add icon noir, which we don't currently have, you just click here and it adds that icon library. And if I don't want it, I click there to delete it. Next, we have NPM libraries. NPM is Node Package Manager. There are thousands and thousands of libraries available on NPM. In order to use these, you will need to write a little bit of code, and I will cover how to do that in a future video. But to show you how this works, if we wanted some confetti, we would type that here, and we could click, and now we have confetti. And we can click delete to remove it if we don't want it anymore. So in a future video, I will show you how to install packages from NPM and how to drag and drop those into your Clutch project. And lastly, we have Explore Marketplace. This opens up our docs where we have our marketplace, and you can find things that you want. So let's click here on Light Video, and you can see that it provides YouTube and Light Vimeo components, and they look like standard embeds, but they're approximately 224 times faster. So this gets you much better performance so that videos don't kill your performance score. So we'll hit install, we'll hit allow, and then it's going to ask us, are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. All right, next we have media. And media opens the public folder of your project source code. The public folder is where you should store all of your media assets. And to do media management, you just use your file system, which is very cool because if you want to rename something, you can just rename it. So here you can see that we have this asset called Clutch logo beta SVG. If we click here also, it'll take us straight to that exact asset on the file system. And if we want to rename this to just Clutch logo, we can just do this and hit enter. Well, it's going to tell us we already have that. So we'll call this Clutch logo 2. And if we do that, you can see that it also renames here. So you just do your media management using your file system, and it just works. Now we're going to click on Open in VS Code, or this could open in Cursor or other text editors. It's going to launch this project's code, and you can edit your entire code base. Now let's have a look at tokens. Tokens are where you're going to manage design tokens. And so you can create values that you then use in multiple styles across your website. This is a good place to keep your branding consistent. Then you've got classes, which are reusable styles that you use across multiple components. Now the insert menu, which you can access via clicking this button or hitting the I key on your keyboard, contains all of your libraries. First, you'll see layouts. Layouts are folders of pages that you can put shared components that will be shared across all pages. And I'll give you an example of that when we get over to the navigation on the left. Then you have pages. We have blank page. We have not found page. You can publish libraries that contain page templates. And then you can publish those page templates so that you can use them to quickly create new projects. To give you an example of that, we could right-click our homepage and hit Add to Library. And we can right-click our layout and hit Add to Library. And then if we go to Insert a Page, you can see the homepage is in here. And if you go to the layout, you can see that as well. So you can put pages and layouts in your library, and then you can publish those and rapidly build new sites. Next, you have sections. Just think about these as page parts, large bands that go all the way across a page. And if you insert these, you then get a capability to swap a section with other sections or add a section after that section. So this is really good if you're building from a blank page and you want to keep inserting sections and swapping them out to quickly wireframe and get things going. Sections are intentionally base styled so that we don't put a lot of opinion on them, and it makes it really easy to work from these wireframes into something that's very custom branded. Next, we have components. And components, we have all sorts of components. These are your primitive set of components up here, the more basic things you need. Then you have your projects components. These are components that you create in this project. And then finally, you have all the clutch elements. This is the package that comes installed. And as you hover, you'll get previews on the right of what you're going to insert. So we can get this dialog, for example, and let's just insert this here. And this is going to result in a button. And if we click that button, we get a dialog, and we can style this up however we'd like. Again, base styled, not too opinionated. That's that. So those are components. Let's move on to queries. Queries are a way that you pull data onto your page. And we give you a whole WordPress library of data, and we give you a couple of primitive data elements like REST calls, and Laura unpicks them so you can fetch placeholders. Here are your icons. And then here are all the same parts, but grouped by package rather than grouped by type. At the bottom, you've got Browse Marketplace, which gets you back to the marketplace. Here you can rename your project. If you have the WordPress library installed, you will see this where you can create the connection between WordPress and Clutch. You can read more about how that works by clicking here. Now you have visual version control. And this is how you can roll back. And yes, you can work multiplayer and you will see multiple faces in here. And for example, we've made all these updates. Let's roll back by clicking here. And all that mess that we created has gone away. And you can see that we're in a preview mode of revision 0. And you could come here and copy things and then bring them forward in time by copying and clicking done and then hitting paste. Or you can choose to restore this revision. And if we do that, it will put that revision on top. So now we have revision 0, the crazy revision 1 that we created, and a restore point back to revision 0. The really neat thing about this is that you never lose work. I can now choose to go back to that crazy version, or I can just keep rolling forward with revision 0. You also have the ability to edit this description and say, this is a good version. And that's kind of how you can tag checkpoints. Here's where you can get a list of keyboard shortcuts. This is what you can click to get to the docs. If you have collaborators in the project with you, their faces, their avatars will show up here. This is where you go to share your project with others. By default, your entire workspace has access to a project, but you can add one-off collaborators, and you can choose whether or not the project should be publicly accessible. People who use this public link can only access the project and then clone it. They can't actually make edits. This is good if you want to create something and then other people can come and like remix it. So really good to share tutorials, really good to share how you did something with other people. Finally, you have publishing, and here you can publish to different project types. Starting at the top, you have publishing a project template. This publishes a version of the project that other people can easily clone. It's kind of similar to sharing your public project link, but it will generate a permanent versioned link so that you can keep working and people won't be working on top of your work in progress. Then you have staging hosting, which you can do for free. This generates a long staging URL that you can use to get approvals and to share work along the way. And then finally, you have publishing as a library. If you publish as a library, you can install this project's components and other assets into other projects. This is a really good way to create design systems and also share components with others. On the left, you have the Navigator. Clicking these navigates you through your pages to the various pages of your site. Down here, you have your composition. This represents the composition of the page that you see on the canvas. Here you have search, and you can search through everything in your project. So we can look for any images that we have in our project, and you can easily see them all here. And we can click on things in the search, and you can actually work on them from this panel. Next, we have component spaces. Component spaces are very similar to in Figma or other tools that support components. You can create reusable components that show up from your library, and you can insert them. We'll go over these in more depth in a later video. Then you have boards. Boards are a good place to do experiments. And here you can see experiments that we've done of our various authentication forms. And we have another one where we've done a footer experiment. And you can resize these frames and really play around with these components. I also like to keep a typography board so that you can test your typography, and you can even try stretching it inwards and outwards, and you can really see what your typography looks like across various responsive sizes. And lastly, you can create a project cover. We should probably replace this. And what you can do is you can come in here and hit set as project cover. And this is now the cover for your project on your dashboard. All right, so that's everything here on the left. Let's go across the top. You've got your back in history, forward in history. If we go back, it goes to the last page. If we go forward, it goes forward a page. Let's go to download. Then this would take us back to our home page. This button here opens your project in your own browser. And this is really cool, not only to open in your own browser, but also if you want to use something like Responsively. Responsively gives you browsers for a bunch of different screen sizes all at once. And you can also paste it in here. And now you can test, and they all scroll together. So you can really make sure that your website looks good across all responsive sizes. So again, to do that, you just click here and it gives you your open in browser URL. This is a toggle light mode and dark mode. I don't have light mode and dark mode turned on, but I can show you how that works very quickly here. If we go to our typography and we'll set a color, so we can say we want it to be this color. And now if we open our tokens and we can choose a different color. So we're using accent. And what we would do is we'd set a different dark mode color for accent. And now if we set dark mode and light mode, you can see that everything bound to accent actually changes. You have different breakpoint sizes. Now by default, clicking these does not actually put you in the breakpoint. It just allows you to preview. If you want to then edit in the breakpoint, you click this button here to toggle breakpoint editing on, and now you're in breakpoint mode. And as you go up and down, these changes will save into the breakpoints. Click here to toggle that back off, and you're back out. This is how you can toggle play mode. In play mode, you highlight and interact with the canvas like it's a normal web page. Outside of play mode, you select things like you're editing. It's as simple as that. I also recommend learning the keyboard shortcuts for this, which are Command P and Command E. I prefer Command E because I can do it with my left hand while I keep my right hand on my trackpad. Let's go back to the top and look at the far right. On the far right here, you've got the active component name. So in this case, H1 text. This is how you're going to add additional properties. In which case here, we don't have any additional properties, but if we did, there would be more properties that would show up. Let's maybe look at a button. And sure enough, there are many extra properties. such as on-click actions, disabling, the type, whether or not we want it to autofocus. So always look in here for additional properties. Then you get a description and you get your property set. So behave as a link. Here's the href where it should go. Here's the target. Clicking on these labels gives you even more options where you can choose to bind to variables, copy and paste values, clear values, and even remove properties. If you remove properties, they go back into the menu. I can show you that here. If I remove the target property, target goes back in here. And if I click the target property, it comes down here and we can set it back to being blank. If it's dim, that means that there's no value set. If it's white, that means that there is a value set. So instead of removing it, I can just clear the value. And now it stays here, but there is no value set. Then you have classes. On classes, you have the instance class. The instance class stores all the values for just this one button instance. Whereas this class that we've added, button outline, will apply to all buttons that have button outline on them, or all components that have button outline on them. Down here you have states. States are things like hovered, disabled, focused. And if you click on a state, you can style it. And we force the state on so that you can see what you're doing. But if you click back off, now this will be powered by the actual web page state. So that's just something to know, that when you click on a state, it will force it on so that you can see what you're doing, but it's not actually on. Once you click off, this actually needs to become disabled in order to see what that would look like. Then down from here, you have your styling panel. And one thing to note is you can always click the property names to get help. And you can click Learn More to open up the documentation from MDN, where you can play around and you can learn a lot more about what's going on there. There are a lot of properties in our properties panel, so I recommend spending some time clicking on everything and learning how it all works. If a property is set, it will look blue. If you click on the property, you can see in the inspector all the places where it is set. So there might be properties that are set on button outline or disabled or elsewhere, and you can find out where everything is set by clicking for applied. I can click here to see where styles are applied for disabled. And for example, color is set. You can see it's stricken through. It means it's being overridden. So if I can click here and I can see where it's being overridden from. So you can actually navigate through the properties by clicking on them. If you want to clear one, you can hold the Alt key and click the label and it will clear it. If you see just a gray color like this, that means that it is set elsewhere and you can jump there by using the Navigator. As you see here, everything's got docs. You can convert to properties if you want to set them more dynamically. You can copy, you can paste, you can clear values. There's a lot going on here. If you see a property that has these types of indicators, that's because they can be set in different ways. So a border can be set either on all four sides, across the vertical and horizontal axis, or four individual sides. There are a lot of things that are this way. Effects has a whole entire menu that opens with many effects that you can add. And these add as layers. So if we add a blur, that adds a blur layer, and I can add that in addition to a saturate. And we can rearrange these and we can click them to open them up to do further editing. Down here, you have custom styles that you can set. And if we don't give you a nice widget for things and you want to do something really specific, you can start typing in what you're looking for, and we'll do scroll snap type, for example. And even these typically have a visual interface on them. So it's very powerful. There's a lot that you can do. Now, if you see this little green dot, this is where you go to wire up Dynamism and where you can go to write code and do all kinds of other fun things. So if we click here, we get tokens that we can use, or we can write code. The tokens that you get are specific to the input type. So a color will give you your color tokens. And if we go up into our typography, for example, and we go to our line heights, this gives you line heights. If we go to our font sizes, this gives you font sizes. So we try to make all of the tokens very context specific so that you don't get a bunch of noise. These tokens are built in and they come from Tailwind. You don't have to use them, but they're there because it provides a quick way to work quickly and semantically without thinking very hard about your rim values or your pixels. Rims are accessible and everything from Tailwind is shipped in rims, but you are always, of course, allowed to just type in a pixel value and move on with it. One of my favorite units is using character count. So I can show you how that works. We can come into this text and we can decide it's too long. And if we come in here, we can set a max width. And we can set the max width of this to be something like 35 ch. And what's really neat about this is it actually limits the width of this by the number of characters in the box. So you can always click here and see all the different types of units we support. This is a very powerful feature that I highly recommend that you look into, because being able to space things based on character count is very powerful. Another unit I really love is line heights for margins. So here we have a margin and we can look at the margin top and we can actually set the margin top to 1 line height, which is what it's currently set to, or we could say we want 2 line heights. And it actually will space it by 2 of this box's line heights. So this makes it very easy versus using rims or ems or other things to simply space things out by the amount of line height that they would be. And that helps you set a really nice vertical rhythm easily. Okay, so that's going to conclude us today. Please give this a like. Please subscribe to the channel so that you can get future updates as I continue to drop tutorials. And please join our Discord where you can let us know what else you need in order to be successful using Clutch. I would love to hear from you and I'd love to see you around. All right, take care.